We want to get into the segment, guys?
Yeah, I'm ready. So what let's remind our listeners, what's the segment again?
So the segment is whatever happened to those guys and gals. Whatever happened to those guys. We've each come up with a couple of bands that maybe put a couple albums out that were awesome, that we loved, and either disappeared or, maybe the group changed, or it just didn't have the same dynamic after that, or just they put out one or two and that was it. We just never heard from them again. So it's not a negative connotation. It's more, why didn't we get more out of this band or this group? We had a couple put together for you. I think I got two. You guys probably have two each for sure.
I got a couple.
Mm-hmm. And it's it was an interesting text exchange when we were talking about what do we want to do this week. This was a cool, like, I came up with probably 7 or 8 right off the bat, and then I narrowed it down to a couple. I was like, these two will be fun to talk about. So with that being said, who wants to lead us off?
And one caveat, and I think this is given if you've listened to us, we didn't tell each other what we were picking, so we're reacting to the other person in real time. So hopefully we didn't overlap. We might have, and if we did, we got backups.
We've done it before. It's worked.
Good pull, Nate. Do we want to jump into the next one?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to go, Tuan?
So I'll go. So it's interesting. This next band is not too far in terms of sound from Korashi. Wow. And drum roll. Shootyz Groove.
Damn it, you took mine.
No way. Oh, yeah. Are you serious?
I had Shootyz Groove. Oh yeah.
All right, let's get into it. So let me just run down, like, I got a couple minutes worth of kind of the story of these guys.
Do it.
And then we can all react. So Shootyz Groove, if you've never heard of them, they're like a rock rap group from the Bronx, New York, started in early 90s. Think like 311 meets Funk Junkies meets Beastie Boys meets Korashi, we'll say. They had a couple albums and EPs, one of which, I didn't know this until I was researching this, but they had a split 7-inch with Downset, who
I saw that, yeah.
was one of the bands one of the first like heavy bands I ever saw in Portland, Maine, which is pretty cool, kind of a rap rock group who actually had beef with Rage, Downset, which is so funny on so many levels. But yeah, Shootyz Groove, they signed a Roadrunner, and they broke out, how most of us heard of them, in the late 90s with, I assume it was a major label debut, which is High Definition. Mm-hmm. So I know in our circle, that was it was a big record. It had L Train, Mad for It, Dear God, Young City Boys and Girls. It got radio play with L Train. But after that album, I personally never heard from them. And I went on their wiki, and so High Definition comes out in 2009. 99. 10 years later, in 2009, they put out another album. I couldn't find it on streaming, anything, like, couldn't find it anywhere. But Wikipedia says they're still active. And they have largely the same lineup from 92. So they have from 95. So from 92 to 95, they replaced their bass player. But from 95 to now, same lineup. But I guess they broke up after High Def, and a couple members spun off and did a different band called Dead Fly Syndrome. But then they got back together in 2004. So if they got back together in 2004, they've only put out one album in 16 years. But I can't find anything on these guys. I was digging, but I know for me that was a time and a place album where it checked every box: the rap, the rock. And they're just a cool band. And they had like roots in different scenes. Like if you're working with Downset, you're involved in the heavy scene. But then they also toured with, I saw they toured with like the Boss Tones. They toured with 311. They toured with, a bunch of other bands like that.
Slayer.
That's right, Slayer. Yeah.
Yep.
So they had a foot in everywhere.
Boogie Down Productions, they were with a bunch of people. They were everywhere.
So Tone, you had them. What are your memories on them? Or like, what did you find?
So yeah, same thing. And the things that were kind of crazy to me is they put an album out in 2009 and that is nowhere to be found. Like I couldn't find it anywhere, streaming services, and I was kind of shocked by that. And I got 3 streaming services on my phone to make the playlist for every week. So I'm like, how is this nowhere? Even YouTube, I thought YouTube would have videos or something kind of related to that album. Nada, like just couldn't find anything, which kind of blew me away, especially how good High Definition is. Like that's a great record.
That record's awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah, right. L Train was obviously the song we heard on the radio growing up. It hit us. We were probably freshmen in high school, and it was like this is this is cool. And then Mad for It's awesome. I remember playing Sean Palmer Snowboarder. You guys ever play that game on PlayStation? And Mad for It was a song, and it was like the perfect length for the first level. So I was always hoping it would come up when I would play the first levels because I knew I could get to the end of it right as the song was finishing.
That is nerdery. So,
that's
the definition of nerdery.
That's what we do, man. That's what we do. It's kind of like the Tony Hawk talk a couple weeks ago. It's the same idea. I played that level so many times just to get Mad for It and Dead Cell by Papa Roach. Those two songs. So.
Oh, Dead Cell's badass.
Yeah. So it was that. Those are kind of my first, inclinations, thoughts on Shootyz Groove. I'm just kind of surprised that album that they put out 10 11 years ago is it's like nowhere to be found. It doesn't make sense to me. Now I want to go to the record store and see if there's a CD somewhere.
Well,
they got
one comment is like, if it's not on YouTube, then it must have been a small
Did it really happen?
self-release type of thing. I mean, everything is on YouTube.
I wonder too, because they were in heavy rotation here in Portland, Maine, and it makes sense because I think they were opening for 311 for the Sound System tour at the state. Were you guys?
Sounds about right.
Might have been. I don't remember specifically, but
they played some show for that album, and then they were playing them super heavy.
Setlist only has them at Orono twice in 98 and 99, but I'm sure Setlist is not always super accurate as far as that goes.
I definitely saw them in Portland, but yeah, they might have doubled.
Oh, they played in Portland. I actually think I have. It's one of those stubs that I might have a stub, and I couldn't go because it was probably early enough that I was too young, and my parents were like, no. It was probably like 98, and I was 14. They're like, no. Well, why not? I mean, look at me now. I probably should have gone.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, they fit that mold of I kind of feel cheated. So if anyone from Shootyz Groove is listening, we know you have more music out there. Throw it on streaming.
We would be all about that. And I just going back to High Def, that one was so good. In my research, I saw that they had put out that first album in 95?
Yeah, I think it was 95. Yep.
Yeah, 94, 95 called Jive, which was Jamming in Vicious Environments. That has a song with Charlie Tuna on it, doesn't it? From Jurassic 5.
I don't know, but it wouldn't.
They collaborated with him at some point, which obviously fits that mold too. So, and then they put a very hard to find live album out too. Between that and an album they put out in 97 called Hypnosis, which I also couldn't find anywhere. Did you guys see that one anywhere?
The only thing I saw was High Def, and then the first album you just mentioned.
Yeah, so that just weird that they're active. There's all this music that might have been made at some point, but you just can't find anywhere. In today's day and age, it's very odd.
That is weird. What label were they on?
A couple.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw Roadrunner. I don't know what album came out on Roadrunner though. They
started on Mercury. Hypnosis came out on Roadrunner, and then High Definition came out on Reprise. And then they signed to a Japanese label after that, which I couldn't find the name of. So yeah, they were all over the map.
And what's kind of telling is, so High Def comes out in 99, and then right after that, I guess they broke up. And then a couple of the guys formed a different band. So obviously there was interband dynamics, obviously. They form a different band, but then they get back together in 2004. So you'd think, and again, it looks like it was all the same members. So I don't know. Something's going on there.
Yeah. It's an interesting, the whole thing is weird, and it fits this segment perfectly. Like what happened to those guys?
Yeah.
Like there's just so many questions and not enough answers for us to figure out, like, why can't I listen to them right now more than I can? I listened to High Definition today because I hadn't in forever. I threw it on while I was prepping for this, and I was like, this is still a banger. There's no bad songs. Like they covered that XTC song from '86, Dear God, and they made it better, I think. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Do you know where they're from?
Bronx.
Brooklyn. Yeah, Bronx.
Oh, yeah,
Bronx.
New York.
Bronx. Okay. Because I was just thinking they might have been dropped by their label, but maybe signed to a multi-album contract, and therefore were restricted to put out new music until a certain year. I'm thinking of California as a right-to-work state, so you can actually kind of break that clause in the record contract. But if they're from New York, maybe that clause doesn't exist. I'm just getting super legal nerdy here.
Could be. Although, what album tone did High Def come out on?
Reprise.
I feel like that had to have done...
That's fairly major label at that point, right?
Yeah, but I feel like that album had to have done pretty well commercially, and maybe we were just blind to it because it was big in our circle. I mean, it was on the radio
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking it up, so check it out.
that's a good poll that both of us had this.
I know.
When you were like, no, this is a cool one. I'm like, damn it, I bet he has Shootyz groove.
Ah,
That's
man.
crazy. Especially because you
We
guys
did
both
grow
narrowed
up
it
together,
down.
right?
Yeah.
It's just funny because
yeah.
you narrowed it down to that, and you have so many others. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Well, you gotta
Reprise
figure-
is Madonna's record label.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to figure for a band to be in this segment, they have to be at least, 10 to 15 years old. We're not going to put a band on here that's 3 years old. You got to give them time to make the follow up. So the window is, I don't know, anything probably pre 2010 to 90s.
Well, and this is one of those, like, their major label was their best, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So
Because
this album's perfect.
Roadrunner probably, you could argue I think they're a subsidiary of someone, but yeah, true major proper. Yeah. Oh, this is definitely their best. From what I heard, there's multiple albums out there floating.
Right, yeah. I can't speak on Hypnosis. I can't speak on that one that came out. I think it's called One it's called One in 2009. I can't speak on those. They're nowhere to be found. I'm trying to find what how many units they moved, but that's even a mystery. Like, what are these guys?
Mystery band.
I mean,
I know.
I think you're right, Nate. It probably didn't perform, or the interband dynamics took over, because I guarantee you that album did not go gold.
Yeah.
Which in hindsight kind of surprises me, just given how much they were around at that point. But
well, yeah, I mean, they were getting pushed on our local alternative station, right? I mean, they fit that rap rock mold of that time. I can't even find a Billboard. No.
Well, it shows you the smoke and mirrors for fans. You see a band on the radio, you see them in a luxury tour bus on tour with, a band that you do know as a support actor or whatever. And you're like, oh man, they must be crushing it. And, now we're older and now we know how things really work behind the scenes. And it's like, yeah, if you don't make quota, man, the record label's not going to keep promoting you. There's other bands that are coming right after you, or that are already signed, that are legacy bands. The Reprise, for instance, obviously Deftones is like their all-star band. So who knows? This is really cool though.
And you're splitting it 5 ways, So
the
story checks out, I guess. Now that we think about it.
But they were so talented. You'd think at some point a piece of that group would do something that made some noise. I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, that happens, right? The whole industry is littered with stuff like that. So, all right, Twan, you want to toss us out your second one?
Yeah, I'll kind of tease this and see if you guys can guess it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Formed in 92.
Ooh, I love the 90s.
And I'm going to backpedal a little bit because they're still active. And I would have thought they called it quits in the mid-2000s. Quintessential alternative rock, alt-rock radio band.
Creed. I know they're coming back, so.
And I saw that too.
It's not Creed.
A couple more hints. They put out 3 to 4 albums in the 2000s, in the 90s. And then in 2002 had probably their biggest commercial success. And you saw some changes with them aesthetically, like with the CD cover. You could tell it was label influenced. It's 3 words.
Man,
Our Lady Peace?
Our Lady Peace, exactly.
Nice.
No way.
Yeah.
Sweet. Nice.
So let me qualify this. So, yeah, started in 92. I think they had 3 or 4 albums in the 90s. They had Naveed, Clumsy, Happiness is Not a Fish You Can Catch, Spiritual Machines. And that had, Clumsy, Superman's Dead, One Man Army, all those songs.
Clumsy is so good.
So good. I mean, great albums. But then fast forward to 2002, Gravity comes out. And if you remember, like, the CD covers of all those other albums were, like, abstract and super creative. And then Gravity comes out, and it's just a photo of the band. And they're all, like, kind of, like, not glammed up, but, like, I think one of them has, like, a leather jacket and, like... So the aesthetic kind of changed. So it's probably label-driven, but it had bangers somewhere out there in Innocent.
Great album.
Probably could be their best 2 songs. So for my read of the band, they're at the peak. 2002, they're at their peak. And then after that, before I kind of researched them for this segment, I would have thought that was their last album. But no, they've released several albums since then. And with the most recent being in 2018. And they're still active. So I'm kind of backpedaling, but And maybe I changed. Maybe my interests kind of moved on. But that
That
O2
happens,
album, Gravity, was gold. Oh, it was awesome.
That album's awesome. I agree wholeheartedly, and I agree. Like they were on a high. Those albums are all awesome. I was a huge fan, man, and I saw them a ton. They played the State Theater like every 6 months for a while there. But yeah, they dropped off. That's crazy. And I didn't know about those new albums either. So it's not you. It's literally like, unfortunately, maybe like their marketing, label support, anything. Like if we didn't hear from them, we just assumed they were kind of like, laying low.
Yeah, they had albums in 05, 09, 2012, and 2018.
I'm blown away by that.
And
I'm looking at them too right now. I'm like, really? I would have told you Gravity was probably where it stopped.
And you look at the CD, because a lot of times you can, like, if you didn't hear it, you might recognize the visuals of the CD cover. I'm looking at all 4 of them, and I've never seen these albums before.
I'm trying to see if I recognize a song name, and I don't. Even though there's like starred ones that are supposed to be big, I've never heard any of these.
But that's a band that, leading up to this, I've been listening to Gravity. I threw on Happiness. I threw on Clumsy. And for the genre, they're classics.
Yes. Clumsy is the one that stands out for me. But that's because probably time and place, and a buddy of mine had it, and we would just, his dad would like go to work, and we were probably like 9 in the summer, and we just, older than that. It came out in 97. So we were probably, 11 or 12. And just crank that thing. We'd open the door to his house and turn up the stereo as loud as we could for Superman's Dead, and just like the whole neighborhood was like, "What are these kids doing?"
His voice, Rain is the singer, I think, right? Yep. Very unique voice.
It's very Billy Corgan in some areas.
Yep.
Smashing Pumpkins. But I think were those major label? Yeah, they were. They were all major label, like Clumsy. I think
Sony Music was Clumsy.
Yeah, it had to have been label push, because like if you look at the CD cover of Clumsy, it's like the dude is on like the trapeze with his mouth or something, and they go from that to they kind of mail it in with Gravity. It's just a photo of the band all glammed up.
Mail it in, or we're told to do it.
Exactly. I think it's the latter for sure.
Yeah. 4 a.m. and Clumsy are both great songs.
They didn't have Lance Mercer, unfortunately. Take some dope photos.
I mean, it's a cool photo, but it's just, no one's looking at the camera.
We've seen that photo 1,000,000,100,000 times, right? Like, we don't need that again. Stop. I've only seen one album where the guy is on the trapeze on his teeth.
Right. Yeah, totally. So are you guys in the same boat? Like you had?
Yes.
Like if I told you these guys ended in 05, you'd believe it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So it's not just me.
No, and that's funny because we're all nerds, so we should know this, but we're also casual nerds at the same time. And yeah, I mean, they seemed like they disappeared. And I did see that they were touring with Guns N' Roses in 2017. So I remember I was going to try to see them. Yeah. It was all Canadian dates. Of course, they're from Canada. But I remember seeing them like in a headline, like Our Lady Peace is going to be the support act for Guns N' Roses on this once in a lifetime tour, but only Canada dates. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. I mean, I love that band. It's like one of my favorite bands, actually. But no US dates. So awesome pull, man. I love Our Lady Peace.
Yep. Yeah. There were 4 or 5 really good albums there to start, and just, songs that are timeless and only sound like, sound different, but it's they were cool. I hadn't thought about them in forever, and I will probably spin Clumsy the next day or so, just cause, and you'll see some stuff on the playlist.
Spin Gravity again, because I think it's definitely the most polished, and it has label influence all over it, but it's great album.
Well, they write good songs, so that's what shines through, as we've talked about numerous times over our 14 episodes. You can tell when it's good and when it's fake, right? We can tell if it's good, even if it's label polish, it's going to be good.
Yeah, Gravity is like the Third Eye Blind, like sing-along songs. Like, what was that song you mentioned, Twan? Innocent.
Yeah.
Did you see them at the State Theater?
Never saw them.
For that tour?
I'm actually shocked. I've never seen them. But I would still go see, if they came to Portland, I'd go see them.
Yep, absolutely. Me too.
Yeah, that State Theater show for that tour, they pulled on a girl on stage that sang that song with Rain. That's cool. Yeah, it was really cool. They both sang together.
We saw Goo Goo Dolls do that too. at the State Theater. They pulled somebody up on stage to sing a song with them. I can't remember the song now, but that was right before you moved, Nate. They kind of fit that mold, right? They're a similar type of band from that time frame.
Yeah, the late 90s, like pop rock. I love that stuff. It's like one of my favorite genres.